I'm here with Jason Wetherington of the Wetherington Group, and we're here to talk about you. How are you, Jason?
One of my least favorite topics.
Well, thank you so much for joining. I know that you actually had to fly cross-country to be here, and so I just want you to know I'm deeply appreciative for you being here. And this has been, 4 years in the making? I mean, really talking about when you and I first met many years ago and had discussions about business and things, and there was a little bit of time. So talk to me about just your evolution of your business from when you first started to today.
Well, it was actually about 6 years ago, but I'm not one to keep score.
COVID, there's that
But
time.
yeah, I mean, through our mutual friend was introduced and met at your office, and you gave me a book or two to read about, how to build a real estate business. And at that point, I didn't want to drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And the proof was in the numbers, and growing up in the area that I was working, I thought I could do it all on my own and had what I needed to do to be successful. And after sitting back for several years watching all of these other folks that you had the opportunity to work with and coach and serve alongside and see the success that they were experiencing, and then, which led to that phone call to Jack Smith, what the hell are you doing? And, it brought me back full circle to the conversation we had, 5 years prior to that.
Yeah. Well, and as they say, the rest is history in terms of the cliche, but things have been a little bit different, and that's exactly what I would love to talk about. I think that there is a way in this industry to have very surface conversations about what success looks like.
Right.
Numbers, gross commission, making sure that you get awards. And although those things are important and you do achieve and receive those, talk to me about how your concept of success has changed in the last 6 years, and what does it look like now?
So you're right. I mean, I was driven by so many of those things that I perceived. There's this perception of success that we have in our heads.
Right.
And I very much was driven by, if I wasn't at the top of the list of the top producers, and I mean, I've shared with you many times, I had the top 100 agents in our MLS printed out and posted behind my computer in the office at home. And I wrote on there top 100 by, a certain date. And I was driven by that. And every time there was a closing, I was driven by this insatiable appetite to beat everybody.
Right.
And through a series of life events and this growth and evolution, or whatever you want to call it, helped me realize that the only person I'm really competing against is myself, essentially.
Right.
And what success looks like for any other agent is not necessarily what success means to me. And so moving from that place of I have to be number one, and if I don't win the awards and get recognized in a magazine and achieve all of these things, then I'm not succeeding. And that's where there was this paradigm shift or just complete change in mindset for me of realizing that success is a very personal thing. And the only success that I have to worry about or be concerned about or work towards is what that definition of success is in my life and for my family.
Yeah. Well, and it is fascinating. There are quite a few people that the proving it to others is absolutely a motivator. It will take you to a certain place. But it might take you somewhere and then you're like, what is this for? Why am I here? Some of those things absolutely show up. So what advice do you have for the person who might be in that space and they're starting to feel the foundation is crumbling a bit in terms of I'm way into it thinking that I was here to prove others. How do you still commit to yourself at that point?
I think for me, and I can only speak for myself and my experience, it's been giving myself the grace and the empathy and the space to redefine what success means for me. And it's a constant realignment or alignment with the way life shows up for me, for my family, and it's unique to each individual person. And so I would say, allow yourself that space and that grace that you would show other people. I mean, I would find myself talking to new agents in the market center or at networking events or whatever, and I would be telling them these words that were coming out of my mouth and speaking into them. And then in my own head and my own mind, I would walk away from that and be like, what the heck did you just say to them? And why aren't you doing that yourself for yourself? Why am I not doing that for myself? So that's one of the things, and one of the places that I have found myself recently is just giving myself the grace and room and space to grow and align with my big why or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and so, there have been some life choices that you've made that is living in that grace and living into that authenticity of really, having the conversation with yourself of what do I want, and what is that? What are you enjoying?
Well,
these days?
it's recognizing and realizing that I don't have to do everything by the book.
Yeah.
There's not a one-stop solution for every individual. And realizing that I am surrounded, especially in this coaching community that you've created and that I have the privilege to be part of, it's realizing that I'm in a tribe or a community of folks who are all going about their business and achieving their goals and achieving success as they define it in very different ways. And being part of that and that collaboration and being able to say, oh, I like what DJ's doing over here, or oh, that girl Leah, wow, she is killing it. Can I borrow this? And being able to sort of adapt and just try out new things and just sort of go with the flow, which is not something I always do very well. But just going back to, it doesn't all have to be by quote unquote the book.
Right.
And it's not a question of, how do you always say it? It's not a question of and or.
Yeah, it's not a question of and or. It's both. I mean,
Right.
really having that idea that is, why can't I be able to have this life of joy and have experiences and also be successful? Why does that have to be something that we have in conflict?
And that was the question that you posed to me, this past year, in deciding I've built this great business in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, and one of my family's goals had always been to live on the West Coast. And seeing that come to fruition this past year and realizing that it's not a question of and or, it's just a question of what systems, tools, and models do we use to make it work. And for me, it's meant I now have a team in Fort Lauderdale serving customers that I've come to know, love, and count as many friends and family in that market, and now serving clients on the West Coast in Santa Barbara.
Right. And I love that. And that for us, the biggest thing, and I think you absolutely hit it on the head, which is we have wildly successful people in this community, but we're also counting successes in terms of the way that you show up for family and the way that you get to knock things off of your bucket list and what you're doing financially to allow you some of those freedoms. And so, as the salesperson of the organization, it's very easy for me to talk about the value of coaching, but I think for someone who has made the financial and time commitment, what do you say to someone who maybe has never done coaching, or they have a lot of misinformation about what coaching looks like on social media? How has the experience been for you?
I think the proof is in not just the numbers, but where I'm at in my life. I mean, I've always said that you have helped and served me in a way that's very holistic. And it's not just about how many calls did you make and how many closings did you have, and that's one piece of a very large puzzle. And it's weaving together this tapestry of work and personal life and personal growth and goals and objectives and all of those things into this life that we create at our own, pace.
Right.
And the only regret I have was not taking you up on that offer and on really that introduction. It wasn't even an offer.
Right.
My biggest regret was not starting out with a coach, as so many people suggested I do, 5 years prior to having met you. Because just in the 1 year that we've worked together, my numbers,
Right.
just that one piece of the puzzle, are 37% higher than my best year ever on my own, trying to figure it out and do it all on my own.
Right.
Never mind the personal, growth and the personal successes that have come as a result of us working together.
Well, and one of the things that I'm very excited about is, there's growth in my world, there's growth in your world. You and I are having discussions about what the future of your career looks like. And I think that it's wonderful to know that you have believed so much in the power of what this is, that it's something that you want to be a part of your world in the future, of coaching others and pouring into others. So talk about your motivation of wanting that to be something that you get to do as well.
Well, we always talk about how we're not in the real estate business.
Right.
We're in the business of relationships and in serving folks and showing up in people's lives. And then when there is a need for real estate or whatever the business is that an individual's in, you're top of mind. And it's organic. It's not some bus bench plastered, across your forehead, although I do have bus benches. But the greatest joy that I have is being of service to others, whether it's assisting a family that has lived in their home for the past 30 years and has, buried their parents and has, moved on to the next chapter, and being of service to them and facilitating that transaction at a very challenging time in their life, whether it's working with a first-time home buyer, especially in this market, that to help them achieve their dreams of home ownership. It's the service aspect of it and the joy and satisfaction that comes out of helping others achieve their goals and their dreams that drives me. The financial success comes as a result, and that is a benefit, but that's not the fuel that helps the fire to burn.
Right.
And so I've never felt more confident in what coaching and accountability and really encouragement can do in not just someone's business, but just in life in general. And being able to be part of that and partner with whether they're realtors or other entrepreneurs in seeing them experience success as they define it in their lives for their families, that's I'm really excited about partnering with folks and doing that.
So I absolutely think you've used the word grace quite a bit in this interview, and I think that it's so fitting because so many people might find themselves, albeit a midlife crisis, or just they've moved away from the journey, they've lost their way. What do you say to that person on how to come back to themselves, have a conversation with themselves, to really be rooted in what their motivation is, as not necessarily what's perceived by the industry or by others?
So for me, it comes back to getting back to that place of gratitude and realizing how far I have come, that I've always been provided for, that everything that has happened in my past has led to where I am today, and that I am fully equipped and empowered to handle and work through whatever challenges may be present today. And I don't have to do it all on my own, And that's one of the beauties about being involved in whatever your tribe or community may be, whether it's a coaching community or a support group or a faith community or whatever that may be, knowing that you can partner with others in this journey and rely on them to help you at the times when you need help the most. So coming from a place of gratitude and realizing that I'm not on this journey alone.
Well, and being a business owner can be oftentimes a very isolated place. You can sit in a silo, both mentally as well as just motivationally. And I do think that point about community is very important. Do you think that you make your community, or do you think you find a community?
If you had asked me that 15 years ago, I would say that your community is a product of your upbringing and your sphere. What I've learned as I've grown and is that our community is what we choose to make it and call it. We have a family, and we can have a family of choice. And that is the same in all aspects of life. The faith of your childhood may not be the faith of where you are today. The thoughts and upbringing that you had and were born with or were developed around can change and grow and evolve. And again, it comes back to allowing yourself to be open to those things and grow with it.
Well, I I know that 5 years from now, you and I will still be working together in some capacity. What that success looks like,
This might come back to bite you. You better be careful.
if not, there'll be a cease and desist. No, but I mean, looking at where you plan to be, and I think that that's also something. We have people even in this room that kind of get fearful of planning 5 years in advance, because if I was to ask you, would we be here 5 years ago, the answer probably would have been no, or you didn't necessarily see California.
You may not have seen yourself here 5 years ago.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So when forecasting that, I think that there is a conversation to be had about planning for the future and also being completely open to change. So where do you see yourself having, high intentions about the path that you're going towards with low attachment to the outcome? I mean, what does that look like for you?
I love the saying, "Blessed are the flexible, for they'll never be bent out of shape." If you ask any of my friends or people who know me really well, they would laugh because I can get bent out of shape.
Correct.
But, it's, again, it comes back to that grace and knowing that, I can have the greatest plans and goals and objectives in the world. If you had asked me 5 years ago if I would have a successful business in South Florida while building a business in Santa Barbara, California, I would have laughed you out of the room. I mean, if you had asked me that 2 years ago, I would have laughed you out of the room. And so it's, just being open to the possibilities. And I've always found that if I do what's right and I operate and serve folks with integrity and to the best of my ability, and that I can go to sleep with a clear conscience at night knowing that I did my very best in this day. And on the days where maybe I didn't do my very best, I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm not going to, beat myself up over it because I had a bad day. Because bad days happen. The good news is today I know I can restart my day at any time, and I can have a new day at any point that I decide that I need to reset.
Well, Jason, I'm very thankful for you being here. Of course, I admire you. I'm super grateful that you did make that phone call, and you and I have been able to develop such a close relationship, and I'm so excited about what the future looks like for you and your career. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Michael.